Is your check engine light on? Don't ignore it. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today and let our professional parts people scan your vehicle for free. We'll retrieve the codes, discuss possible solutions, and even help you find a professional technician if needed. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts today for our free check engine light help. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Mojo 50 Show is available on demand at mojo50.com.
News, politics, entertainment, and more. Welcome to The Informant. Independent talk, pursuing truth, informing everyone. Now, here is The Informant, Eric-Thompson.
Hey, good evening. Welcome to The Informant here on mojo50.com, over on iHeartRadio and on Spreaker. If you'd ever like to hear some of my old shows, you can head over to mojo50.com under shows, look up Informant Show, and all of my shows are there in podcast format through Spreaker's platform, or head over to Spreaker, look up Informant or The Informant in the search box. And I also put them over on my social media platform, which I welcome you to set up an account, MAGAbook.com. I'm here on Mojo 50 and on Talk America Radio. I always forget you guys. I don't want to. Thank you for listening. Here Monday through Friday, I'm a conservative independent, but I am a social ultra-conservative. Because I sometimes I hear people, I am a fiscal conservative and a social liberal. That's just stupid. I'm sorry, but that's stupid to me. How can you be conservative when it comes to your money and your budgets, but you're not conservative when it comes to the life of a baby in the womb or traditional marriage or things that help cultures last a long time successfully? But tonight we're going to go over President Trump, because Mexico has had chance after chance after chance to try to work with us to stop the caravans and the millions of people coming up from El Salvador, Guatemala, and other parts of Mexico into our country being busted up by the cartel. President Trump finally had to use his last option besides militarily, but how is President Trump going to get Mexico to help us stop the invasion? We'll cover that. The left all over the world, including Angela Merkel, Germany, still criticizing President Trump. The Pope's criticizing President Trump. The left has derangement syndrome, where they will set themselves on fire outside the White House to beat up white people simply because they assume they are a Trump supporter. So we'll get to all that tonight, but let's go ahead and get started. I did want to remind you this because I was on a talk show tonight on a panel, and I want to remind you this. This is from Red State. This was on last night's show, but I want to remind you this in case this was brought up to you today. It said on March 5th, Mueller, remember, Special Counsel Mueller did his propaganda speech. It said Mueller told Attorney General Barr 3 times that his non-decision, or his decision to not make a decision on obstruction, had nothing to do with the Office of Legal Counsel's opinion that a president cannot be charged while in office. But in the speech that Mueller did, he implied that the OLC opinion prevented him from even considering or being able to charge the president with obstruction. To me, that's a real simple thing, and this is why I think that Mueller needs to get called up to the Senate Judiciary Committee with Senator Lindsey Graham and ask some very serious questions. All right, that was last night, but this kind of goes with, I'm going to open up here with Zero Hedge, Tyler Durden, ex-CIA officer, Trump in, quote, historic battle, unquote, with, quote, treasonous, unquote, deep state. This is an ex-CIA officer. This is not a talk show host, some whack job on the street corner in a Starbucks. This is an ex-CIA officer. This is from Greg Hunter's article in USA Watchdog. Former CIA officer and whistleblower Kevin Shipp said, what is going on in Washington, D.C. with the, quote, treason, unquote, against Trump is unlike anything we have ever faced as a nation. That sounds pretty significant. Does it sound significant to you? Unlike anything we've ever faced as a nation. Shipp explains, quote, this is an historic battle between the President of the United States and what I call the, quote, shadow government, unquote. Some call this the deep state, and that includes the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA. President Trump is the first president to stand up against this shadow government. This is Shipp being interviewed. They have been spying on Trump since he was a presidential candidate, so it's huge, it's historic, and nothing like this has ever occurred in any Western government. The shadow government has been controlling Congress, controlling the judiciary, and controlling the President of the United States. No one has stood up against them until Donald J. Trump. They did not figure on this, and he is not bound to the shadow government or their threats. Trump has got them quaking in their boots because they have engaged in illegal surveillance. They have been engaged in false counterintelligence against the Trump campaign and literally planting spies in the Trump campaign. I can guarantee you, this is Shipp. This is a guy that's an ex-CIA agent. He continues. Comey points fingers at Clapper. Well, it says here, I'm sorry. It says, I can guarantee they're scrambling like rats to get off a ship. Comey points fingers at Clapper. He's pointing fingers at Comey. There's Loretta Lynch and on and on. They're scared because if this stuff gets declassified, the American people will see what they've done. And for some of these people, this amounts to treason. The attempted coup of a duly elected president of the United States. Make no mistake, what happened to President Trump with the hoax, quote unquote, of Russia collusion was a frame job to knock him out of office. Trump has called this, quote, treason, unquote. When he says this, the mainstream media is silent and will not report on it, Shipp says. They know it, and they're trying their level best to support the shadow government deep state players because the media was complicit in this false Russia collusion too. There's no way they're going to report on information that will expose their role in it. It's interesting because you have people that are like, oh, that's hyper conspiracy. That is the InfoWars type of stuff. Shouldn't we listen to people? Shouldn't we listen to people that served in the intelligence communities? If Mr. Shipp says, Kevin Shipp says, hey, man, from what I know and from the way I know it works, this is treason. So we'll get to the Democrats are being pressured and divided over, oh, man, what Mueller said, which I already told you and I spoke about last night, was a bunch of caca. Well, Mueller said, man, we have to impeach. So we'll get that here in a little bit. But President Trump, because he tried being straightforward with Mr. Fox, who was the previous president of Mexico, he tried being complimentary. He tried being tough. He tried being threatening. He tried diplomatically. In the end, Mexico will not stop the caravans from coming into their country. So here we go. It's an article from AP. Trump announces new Mexican tariffs in response to illegal aliens. They call them migrants, but they're actually illegal aliens. They're not illegal aliens because they come through the ports of entry. All right, whatever. Most of them don't get caught. And most of them do not go through the ports of entry. So here's an article from AP. It's in a surprise announcement that could derail a major trade deal. No, it won't. President Donald Trump announced Thursday that he's slapping a 5% tariff on all Mexican imports. What percentage? 5%. And then how many of them? 100% of them. It says effective June 10th. To pressure the country to do more to crack down on the surge of Central American migrants trying to cross the U.S. border. He said the percentage will gradually increase up to 25% until the illegal immigration problem is remedied. The decision showed the administration going to new lengths and looking for new levers to pressure Mexico to take action, even if those risk upending other policy priorities. There is no other priority that matters. Well, don't forget, there is the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, and if President Trump tries to make Mexico actually stop people from going through their country, taking cartel-paid buses, traveling through their country and not stopped, then nothing else matters. Nothing else matters till this invasion stops. If Mexico put the military on their borders, and nobody came in, and we fix the asylum laws, and we deport all the illegal aliens, and stop the H-1 and H-2 visas, then we're okay. Oh, that's unhumanitarian. The Pope says that the wall is just like what Germany did. The Pope says that not letting immigrants come into your country is against the teachings of the church. Oh, anybody that doesn't want illegal aliens to come in, they're anti-immigrant. And if they're whites, it's because of white privilege, colonialism, misogynistic, male-dominated supremacy from white colonialists who do not want any brown people in their country. No, the reality is the cartels say, look, you give us money, we'll take you up to the border, you can go in, catch up with your family, wherever they are, get on aid, and nobody will stop you. President Trump's like, well, I've tried everything. So, starting on June 10th, 5% tariff on everything going up to 25%. You start putting a 25% tariff on farm goods and things coming up from Mexico, guess what? They then are the same price and more expensive than the ones that are grown in America. And we won't need the Mexican avocados. Hey, we're already at the station break. You're listening to The Informant here on mojo50.com. Make sure you share Mojo with your friends and family. 24-hour libertarian talk. And I don't know what that is, but we'll figure it out when we get back from the break here. So my name's Eric-Thompson. You listen to The Informant. Again, when we're done with the show, head over to magabook.com and sign up and start connecting with other libertarians and conservatives. Okay. So here is an article from Zero Hedge. Quote, this is a black swan event, unquote. Futures peso tumble as Trump unleashes tariffs on Mexico, quote, until illegal immigration stops, unquote. Update. Some borderline apocalyptic observations from Bloomberg Markets Live managing editor Mark Cudmore, who writes the following. This Mexico tariff is far worse than even the initial market reaction made it out to be. The timing is almost immediate. Chaos for both companies and bureaucrats. No time for anyone to prepare to make contingencies. The only way the S&P 500 doesn't sink massively is if Trump rows back on this. The U.S. imports almost $350 billion worth of goods from imported. Almost $350 billion worth of goods from Mexico in 2018. And what makes it worse, if that's possible, is that many traders are hoping Trump would soon take a more conciliatory trade zone, because U.S. stocks have weakened. This is a black swan event for markets, and the people aren't even registering. Maybe traders are all hoping there's some mistake or this will not be implemented. See, people, these liberals, they don't get it. President Trump is not indebted to anybody. President Trump basically looks at things and says, okay, we need fair trade. We need to have a secure border. We need to have revised immigration laws. We need to deport people that don't belong here. And then we want a merit-based system for people that come in the country in the future. And if we don't need them or they're not qualified for what we need, they don't come in. We get rid of chain migration and we get rid of the visa lottery. Then we stay strong in the world. We tell Iran and North Korea, we're watching you. Most of us definitely do not want to get into any military conflicts. We've already had enough of those. So President Trump's like, you know what? All right. 5% Mexico. And it's going to go up to 25%. Well, if you have $350 billion and you put even a 20% tax, $70 million in tax, or $1 billion, $70 billion in tax, that gets people's attention. Well, believe it or not, it didn't take long for Mexico to freak out. Peso's collapsing. Everyone's like, man, because if America quit doing trade with Mexico, just a significant amount because of the high tariffs, Mexico's economy would flatten. Here's from Gateway Pundit, Christina Layla. That was quick. Mexico's president begs Trump for Friday meeting on just announced tariffs. Less than 12 hours is all it took. Just hours after President Trump announced he'll be imposing 5% tariffs on Mexico starting June 10th. And imports over illegal immigration. Mexico's President López Obrador, sent Trump a letter begging for a meeting to work toward a solution. Quote, Mexico's President López Obrador asked Trump to have U.S. officials meet with Mexican foreign minister on Washington on Friday to seek a solution that benefits both nations. The question is, why? Why did it take this announcement to get Mexico to be serious? The world is not used to an American president that actually cares about his country. Presidents generally don't care about the country. They care about their career, their lineage. How will I be remembered? There's charts out and there's studies on how disastrous Obama's policies were for the economy, what it did to the national debt, etc., etc. Everyone's been mad at Trump on the left. He's destroying Obama's legacy with Obamacare and everything going down. Who cares? Is that what it's about? One man gets in the executive branch and all he cares about is his legacy, not about our country? This article continues on June 10th, the United States will impose a 5% tariff on all goods coming into our country from Mexico until such time as illegal migrants come through Mexico and into our country. Stop. The tariffs will gradually increase until the illegal immigration problem is remedied, at which time the tariffs will be removed. Details from the White House to follow, Trump tweeted earlier today. Over 100,000 illegal aliens are entering the U.S. every month. Every month. Making bogus asylum claims only to be released into U.S. communities. That's 1.2 million people from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Mexico lying about their need for asylum, not applying for asylum in their first country that they entered, which would have been Mexico. So they entered Mexico and did not apply for asylum for Mexico. Why? Because Mexico doesn't give them all the free welfare, all the free education, food, subsidized housing, or free housing. There's so many of them that Ben Carson, HUD secretary, had to say, hey, Clinton signed into law. You actually, illegal aliens, you've taken over public housing. You're getting your butts out. The housing was for citizens. Says here, President Trump is up against a Democrat-led House and activist judges who are stopping him at every turn, so he announced tariffs on Mexican imports. And Mexico is already begging President Trump for a meeting. That's how it's done. Wow. What do you think of that? On the show, we had a discussion about the tariffs, and I'm 100,000 million billion % behind the President Trump on this. And I hope he stays strong until they put their military on the Guatemalan and El Salvador borders and shut it down, and put them on our border and shut it down. Or the tariffs go to 25%. Then the consumers in the grocery store say, well, we can get the produce at the same price then from American farmers, since there's a tariff on the Mexican products and the automotive parts and everything. Can you imagine if this cost to Mexico $10 billion, $20 billion, $50 billion in business? What would it do to their companies? So another good decision from President Trump, and we need to support him on this. Because there's a lot of old Republican thinking out there that tariffs are anti-capitalistic. Well, this one makes sense, and I really don't care who you are, because there's no other solution to get Mexico to the table. Now let's shift over to how are the left doing today as they are trying to figure out, is Pelosi and the gang, are they now going to do the impeachment because Mueller just so laid it out perfectly for him that the Constitution gives them the power to punish, to remove a rogue president? Because Mueller couldn't, remember, because he couldn't actually charge the president because of the legal counsel's opinion. Here is the question that Mueller asked Barr asked Mueller, and you probably have thought about this, but this is my other obvious observation. As we go through an article by Greenwich Time, Democrats are divided, compromise or conquer. If Mueller knew from the very beginning that the Office of Legal Counsel had a standing opinion that was followed by the Department of Justice, that Mueller's team inevitably, even if they came to the conclusion that there was obstruction by President Trump, that they couldn't do anything about it, why did they investigate obstruction to the point that they did? Because in the end, let's say they said, okay, we think he did it. We have evidence, but we can't do anything until he gets out of office. That's one thing. But when Mueller said, regardless of the Office of Legal Counsel opinion, I'm just not going to take an opinion on it because I can't determine if there was obstruction. Well, the left is moving forward as though Mueller just said, hey, charge House of Representatives, here you go. So this article today, this is them quoting the Washington Compost, which tells you, if you hear Washington Post, New York Times, they're far lefties. But I have to go over it with you because these guys, I want to show you what they're talking about in their little dysfunctional circles. And we're going to have to do this after the break. But Democrats are divided. Compromise or conquer? Thank you for listening to The Informant. My name is Eric Thompson. I'll be back here in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Are you tired of high cable
Having
TV
an extra
rates?
supply of food on hand is just smart. Some people call it prepping. I call it smart. You never know what's going to happen in this world. Go to mypatriotsupply.com. You'll find out a lot of good reasons to have that food and some great prices. mypatriotsupply.com.
Hi, this is Lee Colan with your Leadership Matters Minute. You know, we live in an information-rich and time-poor world, and sometimes we just need to find some mental space. It might be in your car, on your drive home, taking a walk in the park. It could be anywhere. I know when we moved into our house recently, my daughter had a little space in her room with a little white furry carpet and a pink chair, and she called it her chillax zone, where she could chill and relax. Well, she was only 8. I don't know why she needed to chill and relax. I need to chill and relax. But we all need to actually chill and relax. So find that place for you where you could step back, plan, reflect, and just be quiet. Turn off the world a little bit. Turn off all the noise. Again, it might be in a local park, taking a walk, doing your exercise. Could be even just in a shower. It could be laying in bed for a few minutes before you just start picking up your cell phone. But find a place where you could have predictable mental space to plan and reflect so you could be at your best the rest of the day. I'm Lee Colan, and this is your Leadership Matters Minute. For more tips and tools, text the word leadership to 444-999.
You get great service and you do some good in the world with Patriot Mobile. Sign up for a Patriot Mobile account today. Start saving money, get great coverage, and do a little bit of good because they support companies, organizations, and candidates that you like. It's patriotmobile.com/doc. patriotmobile.com/doc.
Welcome back. Your favorite independent talk show continues. Here again is Eric Thompson, the Informant.
Hey, thank you for staying with me during the break, and welcome back to The Informant. My name is Eric Thompson here on Mojo50.com and Talk America Radio and over on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and everywhere else you might be listening. Thank you again, and I always invite you to head over to my social media platform, magabook.com, as we're building to give you an option to get off of Facebook as it's suppressing conservative speech, and it's only going to get worse. Before we went to break, we were starting to go over, because we just covered President Trump and the tariffs and why it's important to put tariffs on Mexico to make sure that they get to the table and they actually shut down these borders and stop the invasion. So I'm all for that. Went over that a CIA agent said basically this is treason. Comey and them should be held liable for treason. We'll see how that plays out. But now we're talking about the Democrats because of Mueller's deep state, deceptive, reading off almost a teleprompter type of 8 minutes or 9 minutes of just, I'm lying, I don't believe this, I have to say it. It's conflicting with everything that I told AG Barr and the staff, but I don't care because I don't expect you guys to call me to testify, and if you do, I'm only going to read the report to you, so leave me alone. I've done my deep state work, and unfortunately, President Trump didn't make any mistakes, so I wasn't able to get him for you. But I can't say that because I am a man of integrity. Even though I'm a bumbling old guy that can't talk in front of a camera, even though I've been doing it my whole career. So we're talking about the left is obviously running around saying that President Trump must be impeached. And there's an article here from Greenwich Time, which is a far left paper that is quoting the Washington Compost. And it says, Democrats are divided, compromise or conquer. A split has emerged among the Democrat presidential candidates over whether the party should aim to work with Republicans or wage war against them. A division stemming from a belief by many rank-and-file Democrats that the GOP has stopped playing by the old rules. Don't you? I love it. What a bunch of... Seriously. I want to point this out to you. When you're talking to liberals, Marxists, and progressives in general, traditional America hasn't changed. So we haven't moved right. We were normal. We were the majority normal. The left has gone way left, which then on the scale moved us to the far right. And the people in between just don't have any courage to take a position. We're not far right. I'm not far right. I'm actually traditional America that hasn't changed in decades. But it says here that some of the Democratic presidential candidates, they're saying that that the conservatives, the GOP, they don't want to play by, they don't want to compromise. Former Vice President Joe Biden repeatedly touts the need to return to an era of bipartisan work, working together in a bipartisan fashion, or an era of bipartisan comedy, saying that, quote, compromise is not a dirty word, unquote, after predicting the Republicans will have a, quote, epiphany, unquote, on bipartisanship after President Trump is out of office. Do you know what compromise and bipartisanship means to the left? Compromise and bipartisanship to them means that the conservatives give things up to accommodate the desires of the left, and then there's kumbaya. Everything works out good once the Christians give up their biblical beliefs. Once the culture is okay with transgenderism, homosexuality, and drug use. So if the traditional people, if they would just give up their principles with the Marxists giving up nothing, there would be compromise. President Trump hasn't been compromising because you can't. You have to stand for something, or you will fall for everything. Others say in this article that Biden's views are naive and harks back to an era of bipartisanship that no longer exists. At least the far left wackos in the Democratic Party, they agree. This is why I say we're the divided states of America. There's not going to be compromise. The question is, who wants it more? Because the way the left is working through the school systems and the legal system, they're changing some of the core foundations because of us not saying, no, the guy has gender dysphoria, and that means he has a mental condition, so we're not going to establish policy or new rights for these people. We have more technology than ever to identify how a baby forms in the womb, and so the left is like, well, even though we have more information on that and we know it's a baby, let's turn up let's increase the number of babies we're killing up to and including after birth. So the far left is like, hey, Biden's out of touch. There is no bipartisanship that can happen. As a matter of fact, quote, we're done with two sets of rules, one for the Republicans and one for the Democrats, unquote. Senator Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, Democrat, Massachusetts, a candidate for the presidency, said recently, suggesting if Democrats win the Senate, they should consider eliminating the filibuster rule that requires 60 votes to pass most legislation. The Republicans have been screamed at by people like me to get rid of the filibuster now. But they won't, because that's not the way we do things in the U.S. Senate. But what's the far left saying? If we get into office, we're going to get rid of the filibuster, because then the minority will not have a say anymore. You get rid of the filibuster, you only need 50 votes plus the vice president if you're in office. But the Republicans haven't done that, but they could. But the Democrats, no problema if they get in office. Another Democrat seeking the presidency, which is ridiculous, Michael Bennet of Colorado, echoed that sentiment in his interview this week. He cited an Obama-era fiscal deal engineered in part by Biden, on which Bennet argued that had ceded too much to the GOP as, quote, a perfect example of Washington dysfunction masquerading as empty bipartisanship, unquote. The division crystallizes a question that could dominate the Democratic contest as it goes to the heart of what the party and what the country will be in the current era. That is your progressive evolution. Do most voters want a president who can bring the nation together, or one who will steamroll the other side in what many partisans see as a far-reaching war over culture, ideology, and the very definition of American identity? So lays out the scenario very well. To the left, President Trump wanting to encourage people to stand for the flag, to stand for traditional marriage, to stand for American exceptionalism, to stand for Christianity, to stand for free speech, to stand for the Second Amendment, all the Bill of Rights. To them, do you want a president that will be far-reaching over culture, ideology, and will steamroll and actually destroy the very definition of American identity? What is the American identity? Alabama, abortion laws. Louisiana, abortion laws. Missouri, abortion laws. California, kill more babies, kill adults. Illinois, kill lots of more babies. New York, kill more babies. Raise taxes in Illinois, raise taxes in New Jersey, raise taxes. Sanctuary cities in California, sanctuary cities in Illinois, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York. We're divided. So the left wants to know, do we want to live where the conservatives have a voice, or do we want to live where they don't? Because they're too stupid and racist to even be entitled to be heard anymore. So there's no need for bipartisanship. This article continues. The party dispute has been underlined by a disagreement among Democratic leaders in the House of Representatives over whether to launch impeachment proceedings against President Trump, a move supported by many liberals, including some 2020 White House contenders who have been urging House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat, California, to move more aggressively against the president. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Kentucky, added fuel to the debate in recent days with a reminder of how he has used his power to roll over Democrats, especially in remaking the federal judiciary. This week, McConnell said he would fill a Supreme Court vacancy next year if he had a chance. A contrast to 2016 when he blocked an Obama Supreme Court pick while saying such nominees should not be confirmed in the final year of a presidential term. I like to see McConnell step up at least once every year. That decision by McConnell drives them out of their mind because the far left tries to make these devious plans, and I know for a fact, without having to be told, Ginsburg is holding on and was holding on till at least 2020, because if she had to step down for medical reasons or if she passed away or whatever, then the left would be safe because there's an agreement. And the Republicans wouldn't do it when Obama was in office, that you don't pick a Supreme Court justice in the year of an election. Well, McConnell just said, well, I've been forcing through a bunch of federal judges because I got rid of the filibuster, and I'll go ahead and put through another Supreme Court justice if a vacancy opens in the next year and a half. Some Democrats say that despite their unhappiness with such tactics, the democracy cannot work when the parties are waging an uncompromising war. Quote, I get it. I am frustrated as anybody else, said Christopher Coons, Delaware, who has endorsed Biden's candidacy and holds the former vice president's old Senate seat. Quote, but the fundamental design of our democratic order assumes compromise and assumes that folks will put country above party and to take seriously the role of legislature and not just partisan warrior. I hope they do. I hope they're like, well, Department of Justice and the Special Counsel Office put out just a summary report last night, just confirming that Mueller did not say what Mueller said. He didn't really mean what he said, but no one's talking about it except Sean Hannity. So if the left tries to go impeachment when they have less than 25% approval nationally, that would be give President Trump great fodder and great things to talk about at his rallies as he goes around the country with the bully pulpit. So go for it, Democrats. Impeach away, my friends. Lindsey Graham said it's done. Mueller said he's closing the office. He's done with the fake Russia report. And so the Senate Judiciary Committee is also done with the fake Russian hoax. Now, I think they need to call Mueller in. And we still have Horowitz and Durham out there that's causing big havoc for the left. And we'll get to that again as more information comes out. There's an article here from the Wall Street Journal that this is their attempt of a compromise, Mueller's exit and an impeachment alternative. Trying to overturn election would be too divisive. Congress should censor the president instead. Why? Who cares? But this is their, well, we can censor him. We can agree as a body that he did it, but we just can't kick him out. So that's the option of the middle of the road people. Now here's an article from Bloomberg. Angela Merkel attacks Trump's unilateral worldview in her Harvard speech. German Chancellor Angela Merkel took aim at Donald Trump's worldview in a speech on U.S. soil, saying unilateralism risk bringing down post-World War II alliances and trade wars threaten the foundations of our prosperity. What? What's that mean in English? President Trump actually is trying to put America first, and we like America to be last because then we don't have to pay for NATO because the United States will pay for NATO and they will send their troops in and we won't have to send our troops in. And that's just better, isn't it, Harvard liberal students? Why wouldn't a country do unilateral? Why wouldn't every country have a unilateral worldview? It kind of works this way in Christianity. If you get yourself in a position where you're poor or unhealthy, and you run into someone that has need for some aid, temporary, for food or whatever, and you're broke, you can't help them. If somebody's just really unhealthy and you're unhealthy, you have no credibility and no ability to give them advice because you're not in a position to help. Germany, because it's getting turned into an Islamic state. Berlin, the number one name of boys born in Germany in Berlin is Muhammad. See, Sharia Islam is taking over Germany and France. Italy's fighting back. They're taking over Sweden and Denmark and Belgium. Some of them are fighting back now. Might be too late. And obviously the UK is gone. But the world is still holding on to globalism. They're still fighting Brexit. And as far as I'm concerned, Merkel, go home. Go home and just go in your house because your country is on the way down. Now, here's a story that I think is interesting. This is from Fox Business. The U.S. is no longer the world's most competitive economy. Why is that? For the first time in 9 years, Singapore replaced the U.S. as the world's most competitive economy. The U.S. dropped down to third on the list thanks to higher fuel prices, weaker high-tech exports, fluctuations in the value of the dollar, and fading impact of President Trump's massive tax overhaul. Hong Kong, meanwhile, remained in second place. China is ranked 14th. I have a question for you if you work in the energy sector. America's exporting natural gas and oil. We have it coming out our noses. Why is gasoline up like $1 a gallon since we become energy independent? Crickets, chirp, 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 chirp. See, this is the tension when it comes to capitalism. I am 100% a capitalist, so don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. Greed taints anything that it's involved in. If oil coming out of the ground at $50 or $60 a barrel, $70, whatever. If the oil companies were kind of breaking even, not making money, and all of a sudden they have it coming out of their nose where they can get it out of the ground cheaper because it's of all the different technologies and everything and fracking for natural gas. Why is it when you have too much supply compared to demand, why aren't prices going way down versus prices going way up? In California, now we have higher taxes than most of you, but on average, I'm paying $4 a gallon for regular unleaded. $4. I thought, as we became energy independent, that I would be paying $2. $4 kicks your butt when you live in a state like California where you do a lot of commuting. So I'm just... When this report's saying that the United States dropped, and one of the reasons is because of higher fuel prices, to me, that's when it would be nice if somebody or a group of people at the energy companies, Mobil, Exxon, etc., would come to some type of moral awakening. I'm not asking for the government to get involved. But tell you what, if there's any subsidies going to oil companies when they're raising the prices anyway, and I don't even think we should have subsidies for farmers or for the industry, oil or gas industry, then we need to cancel those. Well, you can't do that because then the cost of fuel will go up. No, it won't. They have so much of it. So it cost us. It's showing some people in the world go, goodness gracious, it's it's not quite as competitive in their economy because fuel cost is eating up profits, and it's really hurting small businesses. This article goes, quote, in a year of high uncertainty in global markets due to rapid changes in the international political landscape as well as trade relations, the quality of institutions seem to be the unifying element for increasing prosperity, Arturo Briss, an IMD professor and director of the World Competitive Center. To determine the results, the study incorporated 235 indicators from each of the ranked 63 economies, taking into account statistics like unemployment, GDP, and government spending on healthcare and education, as well as issues like social cohesion, corruption, and globalization. Well, I can tell you this right now. With those factors, then they can stick it. What do you mean? What do you mean cohesion? Social cohesion, is that, well, we definitely would be falling there because we have college graduations for LGBT, ABC 123 people only. We have graduations for black students only. We have dorms at colleges for black or minority students only. We have classes taught on universities that white people owe minorities, especially black Americans, reparations, cash. We have affirmative action that says if you're a student, Chinese or white, etc., that has a higher test score, but a black student or an underserved minority has a worse grade, then to balance out the wrongs of the past, we'll give the scholarship to the minority student that has worse grades. So I don't want to be ranked well for social cohesion and for globalization. So good. The more I get into this, the more I bring it out. I hope we fall to last. I hope we're last. I hope we get our fuel costs down. But if we're going to be ranked for social cohesion, corruption, and globalization, then I hope Singapore, Hong Kong, Switzerland, UAE, Netherlands, Ireland, Denmark, Sweden, Qatar, blah, 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 Austria, Iceland, I hope they're all above us. Hope we're the worst. Hope we're the worst for those. Hope we get back to where we're not judged by our color, but our character of our skin. I mean, by our character, not the color of our skin. That people that are the most qualified should get the job regardless of your ethnicity or your gender. So I'm glad we're falling. So that's actually a good indicator that President Trump is working, which makes the left angry. Now, here's some articles from the Federalist. The Federalist is actually blocked. They can't go like on Twitter and stuff anymore. They weren't, but now they're allowed back. This is an article from Ben Demenchik. The culture white walkers have descended. American culture is past the point of peaceable navigation of conflict. The left seeks to destroy all that Christian conservatives hold dear. Yes. On that note, over here at the Federalist, the New York City Racist Department of Education shows the perils of privilege theory. A new lawsuit alleges there's anti-white racism in New York City's education department. It's a direct result of privilege theory gone wrong. The three plaintiffs, Luis Herrera, Jay Murray, and Laura Fijo, allege they were given severe demotions and replaced by non-white employees with fewer qualifications. It's nice to see someone actually fighting back. Well, this article here says it's worth considering the important argument between Sohrab Omari of the New York Post and David French of the National Review over the past few days. As with many stupid arguments, it started on Twitter. Thankfully, it bloomed into something more interesting. You can get the background here with David French advancing his typical decency and civility argument against the current sentiments of conservatives locked into culture wars. I don't want to pick on Sorhab, but I get this sentiment quite a bit. According to some folks on Twitter, I don't, quote, fight. I'm too polite for these times. I'm too much of a squish. Apparently, the lesson I learned from a better lawyer than me has been transformed into a kind of defect, a weakness. But in the example above, what did politeness, respect, and dignity cost anyone? We prevailed in the case. We vindicated our client and achieved a just result. At the same time, we treated other human beings with dignity and respect. This piece prompted the typical eye rolls I have toward the always predictable French. Can someone just form the politeness and decency third party already? I get it. It's a view, just form it, and Mitt Romney can caucus with it, and then it can be at the center-right coalition. Basically goes on to point out we need to stop being the nice guys. Call people out. Tell them what you stand for. Fight. Fight harder than the left fights for a lie. So thank you for listening. This has been The Informant. My name's Eric-Thompson. You guys have a great evening, and I'll see you over at megabook.com and enjoy the rest of the shows here on Mojo 50.
Control shaming 24/7. Mojo 50. This is the seditious, rabble-rousing, liberty-loving, home of fun,
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.375%. APR 4.65%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 2.13% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
O'Reilly.
Is your check engine light on? Don't ignore it. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today and let our professional parts people scan your vehicle for free. We'll retrieve the codes, discuss possible solutions, and even help you find a professional technician if needed. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts today for our free check engine light help. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.